today. Excited for this episode because Debi Saltzberg from the Just Forking Around podcast, when I saw the video of you, urban gardening, and how pumped you were about micro little cilantro sprouting, I was like, I gotta have you on the show. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking. That was so hilarious how we met, because I was, doing this little project for a friend of mine to try to grow some cilantro for her. And so I kept documenting it, and I get so excited with the little cilantros when they pop up. So yeah.
That type of energy and positivity is what I love right now. It's what I love always, but right now especially, it's so easy to be down. And there was like no chance of you being anything but excited when you had those 3 or 4 pots of the cilantro. So that's what I want to share with people, kind of that passion that we have as hospitality professionals and all the different arenas that we find ourselves in. And so for you, 25 years in restaurants, the hustle, the grind, the tattoos, all of it, your lifestyle, your brand. And then you made the transition to Just Forking Around, to the creator of that show. And then you said the self-proclaimed food adventure kind of in that moment. So I'm very interested. What was that catalyst and that shift to that? And then we'll talk a little bit about cilantro some more.
Okay, we definitely talk about cilantro and urban gardening, because I'm so passionate about food sourcing and just growing. I mean, growing is so fun and easy. It doesn't have to be some crazy, like, oh, I got to go dig up the front yard and like make some, huge garden. But going back to your question, so in the food industry for over 25 years, general management, running restaurants, casual fine dining, kind of places independently owned was my jam in San Diego and LA. And then, this is what happened actually, Jensen, was that I actually had hurt my hand, and I was transitioning into some places in Santa Monica to work, and I couldn't work because I hurt a tendon. So I had to come up with some, something to do, because, going at that high level pace for so long, and then all of a sudden like, oh my God, I can't work. So I had to kind of take that energy, and I started listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, I can do that. So I dug in. I spent like 6 months figuring it out, because I'm not tech at all. But I had to learn how to do all that. And then I started, amping up my Instagram, Forking Podcast, and just reaching out to all these different people, because I found that the stories of all these people in the industry are just, I get chills. They're exceptional. And so I found that to be super satisfying. And I met so many people from, authors and top chefs and restaurateurs, and being able to speak to people all over the world really was amazing. And then kind of getting that story out to everybody on all the different platforms was exceptional. And then what happened was I was going to move to Costa Rica. I did a whole series of Costa Rica episodes. I went there and I really fell in love, and I was going to open up an inn. We were going to open up an inn and have a little restaurant attached to it. We're in escrow. This was like happening. And then, I don't know, Jensen, I kind of like, something just hit me like, do you really want to go to that country to live? It's a lot, So I kind of came to my, inner sense, and I said, I don't think I can do it. So last minute pulled out of escrow. So I was going to be doing the podcast from Costa Rica and kind of focusing on, a restaurant, the inn, of course, gardening, farming. And then it just kind of time went on, and then I ended up moving to Paso Grill, Florida.
Yeah, I saw that on your videos. I was like, that's a made up place. That could be the real name of a place for somebody in the hospitality industry to end up. So where exactly is Paso Grill, Florida?
It's so cool. It's in St. Petersburg area. So St. Petersburg, Florida has a great food scene, great breweries. There's so many breweries here. It's awesome. Of course, when we open with all the situation, they're closed right now. You can get growlers to go, but everything's a little different right now, as you know.
Yeah, big shout out actually to Green Bench, Christopher Johnson.
Yeah, Green Bench.
One of the smartest guys in any industry, but especially in brewing. And I got to do a collaboration beer with him, and he's unbelievable. So big shout out to Green Bench. If you're in the St. Pete area, Tampa area, go to Green Bench, get some beer, support those guys.
Absolutely, yeah. Because you got into fermenting, and you had a whole.
Yeah, I went off the deep end when it came to fermenting. All kinds of.
You went in hard, right? In deep.
That's what Good Bugs is behind me. Fermentation equals flavor. We've done like over 50 collaboration beers in the last like 3.5, 4 years. Got got heavy. It was good. His beer was amazing too.
Yeah.
So tangent.
If you're downtown St. Petersburg, you go over the bridge to get over to St. Pete Beach. And once you're on St. Pete Beach, it's actually almost like an island. It's only connected by bridges on causeways. So we're at the southernmost point of St. Pete Beach in this teeny little community called Pass Grill. And it's just fantastic. I mean, I love it so much. It's amazing.
All right, so you make the transition, you're doing the podcast, you're talking to people all over the country, all across the industry, and food adventure. You also did a lot of events. I saw a lot about you doing events and stuff and bringing people.
And then I had been curating food adventures, doing tours, food tours in Santa Monica. So had set that up with some of the local restaurants there and was like really curating that. And then it's so unfortunate because what happened, it was like 3 of the restaurants that were going to be on the food tour ended up losing their lease because it's Venice Beach. I mean, it was just, the gentrification. And so I had to restart all of that all over again. So it was a lot going on there, but food adventures is, bringing people through a whole coursing, progressive dinner style. It's so cool. I love that idea, bringing people together in a different fashion, locals and tourists. So it was pretty cool.
I love that. The pivot. It's funny. People talk about the pivot like it's this new thing. Yet people in the hospitality, that's like literally what you do every day, all day. Try to pivot to like keep the place from burning down every moment. And so you've already been pivoting your entire career, pivoting then these different moments that kind of came at you really quickly, because 25 years of kind of the same thing, the grind, the hustle that you know so well, and then a few years of like, oh shit, what do I want to do? Do I have some opportunity that I don't know what to do with myself? Because I know I struggle with that. So then now in this moment, the pivot was just automatic for you. Just continue to communicate and do what you love. Gardening, urban gardening.
I love it.
I love it so much, especially being in Denver. We need some of that. It's interesting. I posted about it. Right after this, I'm going up to Boulder County to Eric Skokin's farm, Black Cat, who pivoted and got a farm stand. There's pickups at his restaurants, and they now have Mabel, the ice cream truck, converted into a delivery. Wow. And they go to neighborhood to neighborhood and drop off produce and mule foot pork. So I'm all about it. So talk about urban farming at a high level, and then what it is for you specifically.
So, I mean, I just feel like with urban, anybody can create a little garden. Like I said, I use the geopots, those little pots that are on my Facebook page, or they're on your page too. It's just so easy. You can order them on Amazon. There's 3-gallon, 5-gallon, 7-gallon, 10-gallon. You can plant tomato plants. I mean, you can take the 7 to 10 gallon and have the tomato plants. And what I love about these little geopots is you can move them around. So if you're not sure, all of a sudden the sun's like, whoa, shoot, I didn't take that into consideration, the time change or whatever, you can move them around. And when you're done, if you just want to take a pause from gardening, you didn't dig up your whole front yard. And now you're like, oh God, I have these dead beds, So with these, what I do is I order my seeds. They're really great high-end seeds from High Mowing. There's other places. That's just the one I use, seed sourcing. And, I'll create I sprinkle them in. I maximize the containers as best I can. And then I just literally, make sure they're in the sun and water them. And, I do talk to them. We were talking about that earlier. I do. You got to talk to the plants. They got to hear you. So they
need your energy just like we do right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's that. And then there is a little part that it can be a little woo-woo for people. I do a lot of the gardening by biodynamic principles. So I used to volunteer at a ranch up in Malibu called One Gun Ranch. And it's a biodynamic, it's unbelievable. So I was there for a few years, just every week volunteering, and I love the space. It's so magical. So I learned a lot about the principles of biodynamic gardening. And a lot has to do with the Farmer's Almanac, the sun, the moon, mostly the moon, because the moon goes through phases. So you really want to plant. This is how I plant and harvest according to the moon. I go on a biodynamic app that I have. It's just called Moon and Garden. And I can see what type of day it is to plant which type of vegetable. And I could go into the philosophy of that. That's a whole other episode. I have a podcast episode number 11, which is all about biodynamic farming. So
Good. Go check that out, right?
Yeah. It's with Alice Bamford. So she's the owner of the farm there.
.net, right? That's the
workingaround.net. Yes.
Yeah. Go listen to episode 11.
Yeah,
get on it.
Yeah. So, so that's what's going on with the gardening. And right now, I know we're not out there. I would love to show you. I'll send you some pictures, or you'll see more updates when you should see my squash. I mean, I can't even believe how tall they are, and they're like so healthy. So it's all about the soil. It's all about the love. It's all about the sun. It's all about watering them. So,
great. Just the excitement, I think, is important. Sometimes in the restaurants, especially, everything just shows up. Yeah. Right? We take for granted the process, the people that go through all of this work to create this product for you that you then zhuzh up and make more beautiful. Even though I'm sure, in your opinion now, that squash could never be more beautiful.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Whatever it is right now is the most beautiful it can ever be. Yeah. So I think it's interesting to get that perspective. Talk about it just from like your sense of being in this moment, because I understand why it's so important. It's integral to our food system. It's important for us to have respect and understanding for the land, the soil, the moon, the sun, all of that, right? Holistically. In this moment, though, practically for you, is it therapy? It feels like it's therapy.
Oh, totally. I mean, it goes back to nature, right? I mean, when you think about it, I get the seed like literally in the mail, right? And just some seeds. And then I'm like, oh, and I get my soil and I put the seeds in the soil in a pot and I water it and it grows. It's like, what? And then it fruits and I get to eat it. So there's this like magic that you will experience by knowing that like all is okay. Nature, it redirects itself. It has a plan. It just is. And I think being part of that and watching and nurturing that is just like makes everything just kind of okay. Just everything's okay. I know that's kind of how I feel when I see them. And it's so amazing to see the plants grow like from morning to night. It's just like amazing. So see green, to see growth. It's almost like, there's going to be opportunity. We're going to bloom again. It's just this cycle. So it all kind of comes together for me.
Well, like what a metaphor for this moment. Like it all goes back to the earth, and then it all comes back again, right? And even just like fire is for clearing the way for what comes next, and so it's struggle for sure, but it's like by design. I think it's
funny because I have being in Paso Grillo, I was still going to kind of take a break a little bit from the industry just because I kind of got off that fast track. And so then it was how we can't help ourselves, right? So I'm involved in another project now, and we're actually started the idea of this right before everything happens, and now we're actually going to be opening next week, which because it's under an ag license. It's a pasta and provision store. So basically, we have fresh pasta that this guy that is a chef at the place next door he's from Italy. So he's going to be making fresh pasta and fresh sauces. And we redid this little storefront. It's really cute, really clean, beautiful. We're going to do cheese boards to go, charcuterie. There's a lot of ins and around here. So when people start coming back, I'm going to do some really cool baskets and meal kits and just kind of all that fun stuff to curate. We'll be wearing masks, and everybody that comes in the store has to wear masks. We're going to have to be very diligent in the sanitization process and, all that. So it's a whole like new landscape, I know that most of your episodes, you guys talk a lot about that. But it's just interesting that we are actually opening something next week.
Honestly, I tell people like, you may not be able to open the thing that you thought was the thing because of your 25 years of experience, but there's immense opportunity if you reimagine and repurpose the singular nucleus of hospitality.
Yes.
And figure out what we need from that now. And that was literally going to be my next question. When I think about what you're doing and I think about the restaurant industry, there's a little bit of a gap, at least in the mainstream of the way that we do that. We are just disconnected, myself included, would have little herb gardens and stuff like that for like micro garnishes, but never committed and went all in. And I think about you and I think about the industry and I think about how all of a sudden supply chains are so unbelievably stretched thin and potentially breaking down. We haven't even seen the full impact of it. Now I think about your community being so small and so focused and so family oriented. I think about the food system, and that's going to be a big unlock coming forward. So now you being in a position where you've been working in this space for a while, and now you're opening a place. Talk about that. Try and connect the dots for me and for us a little bit on how gardening being connected to your food product is going to be paramount in what happens next.
For
as a whole.
As a whole, well, I think one of the whole things about food sourcing is it's always been an interesting topic for of like the, you know, how far things travel, the freshness of items that you're ordering, you know, where's your food come from, what's in season, you know, cooking for the season. You know, I was one place I was managing, everybody always wanted the Brussels sprouts. And there's not a year-round, it's not a year-round dish, but we took it off the menu and people went crazy because we didn't have the Brussels sprouts. We had to bring it back on the menu. So, you know, it's just interesting. I think people's understanding of what's available and the freshness, I think people are hoping to remember this and become more like how valuable it is and how important and how special, you know, these individual types of produce and meats are, and how valuable are, and how we really have to take care and be conscious of how we are transporting or growing. And I think that, you know, I think about growing, like say I grew all this cilantro, right? And then my neighbor grew all this lettuce. Then my other neighbor grew.
Let me pause you for a second. The robots are. I'm gonna reset us real quick, people. I'm gonna disappear for a second because I want what Debbie's saying right now to be crystal clear. Hold on a second. Par for the course, Debbie. You know.
That's right. That's right. It happens. I'll just sit here. I have to remember what I was saying.
Isn't this perfect though? It's a reset. A reset often works really well. It does in nature. It does in our industry. It does as humans, and apparently it does on the Be Live site as well. So, but you were talking about the food systems and where the food comes from, how long that system is, and then you were starting into somebody was starting to grow something.
Yeah, I was thinking like it'd be really cool, right? I mean, the idea is like you could actually, you know, I could be growing over my little geopod like cilantro, since I'm so into the cilantro. And then my neighbor could be growing tomatoes, and my other neighbor could be growing lettuces. And next thing you know, we have our own little opportunity to kind of like trade or sell or, you know, provide for each other. This whole idea, I don't know, there's something about that I find is going to become important in the near future, where people are going to realize that you can actually grow your own food and you can share it with your neighbors and not become a little bit. I mean, you have to grow a lot of lettuce to handle, you know, all the neighbors, but it's possible, you know. It's possible.
Just the theme of what you're talking about, I think, transcends even what you are actually talking about in the gardening. And I've been talking about that a lot, of us owning our own resources and us cultivating our community in a different way than we potentially have. And so when I think about that, delivery apps come up a lot. You know, like DoorDash is amazing because it gave you the opportunity to connect with an audience that wanted your food at home. Yet they also have a lot of predatory practices, and that is not your guest. That's not your customer. They belong to DoorDash, not you. Right. And so it's about like, what if you got 20 restaurants together and you guys started your own platform? What if you got gardens together and you all had your own gardens, but they all cultivated for each other? I think about that a lot. And then when you're talking about the Brussels sprouts, I want to dig into that a little bit more because I think there's a big opportunity there. People want the Brussels sprouts and the kale and the buffalo cauliflower because a bunch of other people said it was cool and good. And they were right. They're fucking delicious. They're amazing. Yet right now, what's amazing is spinach and arugula, right? And asparagus. And so if all of a sudden your brand is centered around your garden, then people want whatever the hell is coming out of that garden because they know it's going to be the best. But if you don't have that level of brand and communication with your audience, then they're going to want the thing that everybody else is saying is the good thing. And then you're at the mercy of what everyone else is saying is the good thing versus what you're growing. Let's talk about that a little bit more, because to you, that's clear. Right now, you're going to get cilantro because it is so perfect in this moment. Not the Brussels sprouts, because those you're supposed to eat 3 months ago.
Right, exactly. And then in the squashes, the summer squashes, the tomatoes. What else am I planting? Eggplants. Eggplants are great times right now. The beans, all the string beans. Those things are. And then there's what else is, there's all the leeks. Leeks are really good. Green onions are really good. Garlic's really hard to grow. It's like take like 6 months to grow that sucker. So I haven't grown ginger yet. But I still prefer that. But yeah, I mean, I grew Brussels sprouts in the past. I love how they grow. It's not how you normally see them. They're on a big stalk. It's like this crazy looking thing. But you gotta eat in season. And the other thing too is when you eat tomatoes not in season, I want tomatoes year round too. But when you eat them, they're just not. The skin's really thick. It's just not right. And they're being shipped from wherever. And there's one other thing that I find interesting. I'm not a huge and it's not a huge soilless like hydroponics when I grow. I know that there's some places down here that do hydroponics and you have like lettuces and all the greens. But I feel like for me growing, I tried the hydroponics with no soil, just the water, and then you have to feed it with the liquid. I just felt like it wasn't the soil, it wasn't nature. I don't know. And nothing against hydroponics, but for growing, I didn't find as much joy in it. Like getting my hands dirty, it was like water, and it's dark, fluorescent light, which is good for weeds, right? You want to go through it.
Yeah. A lot of that out here in Colorado, for sure.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit more like a science project than it does kind of growing your cilantro, for sure. I can see that.
Yeah.
And so, do you think about cooking food differently now that you're growing the food? Because you have that beautiful squash, and again, you're like, it can't get any better, but I'm going to season it and throw some butter into a pan and then at least do that. Are you cooking those ingredients differently now?
Yeah, super light. I mean, super, super light, because I want to celebrate more the flavor of the actual vegetable that I'm cooking. And celebrating that flavor is so easy to do, and it's so delicious. You don't have to mask it. You can accent it so it can actually taste what it's supposed to taste like. Like I'm pouring leeks. You probably love leeks as a chef because there's so many leeks, the stock, the greens. You can make soup, but I never really knew how delicious the green part, the white part is, and when you put the half a minute and you saute it, I mean, fantastic. My other one I was playing with is the dandelion greens.
Oh yeah,
those are awesome. Blanch it. Yeah, those are amazing. So
I just cook them up into salads too.
Yeah,
They're
so
good.
So exploring different things is fun.
It's very interesting, and I don't want to get too metaphysical here, but there's also a lot to say about the food's ability to take you out of certain states of being. So like a lot of green things like the dandelion take you out of fight or flight, and we're all so in fight or flight right now that a lot of times I think about food and I just slow down and be like, this food is medicine too.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fucking hippy dippy. I am a pragmatist so much. My mom and my sisters, their fingernails are black with soil. They literally have a company where they grow moringa and make products and all of it.
That's awesome.
Bees, and I'm pretty sure they firewalk on the weekends and do fails. I love them. It's not me. When I say that I think of food as medicine, a lot of people go, I've never heard you say anything like that. But especially in this moment, do you also find that? Do you find yourself eating the foods that you find make you feel nourished? And especially right now when you freak the fuck out about so much.
Oh my God. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
It's important, right?
Yeah, I mean, so important. So important. I mean, food is everything. Food is everything. No, I think that
mic drop. Food is everything.
It is. It's medicine. It's joy. It's love. It's nourishment. It's community. I mean, it's we in the hospitality industry. We know. I mean, food is like coming together. It's everything. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
You've been able to get some of your contemporaries, some past restaurant people, turned on to Urban Garden that you maybe never would be into it.
Oh yeah, and funny thing is here in Paso Grill, because I've started posting those videos, all my neighbors, 1, 2, 3, 4 neighbors, like within, because it's a small community, they started growing in little pots. It's so awesome, and they're sending me pictures. This woman who owns a shop here in town that had to close, and she has a little kid, and they're freaking out. So I dropped over they're panicked a little bit because it can be like that with what's going on. So I brought over some soil in the geopots and then some seeds. I dropped it at her door. And so her kid's like 3 years old. So I sent them videos on how to garden. And so they keep sending me videos back because they put their seeds in and they're these crazy. I mean, it's like they're mescaline. Their greens are like so big. And I was showing them how to, harvest them. And I don't know. So it's been really fun. It's super fun turning people on to it.
I love it. It's clear to me, just watching the one video, that taking these words, your positivity is infectious, and I want you to spread it, which clearly you're doing. And I appreciate that. So you get him young too. That 3-year-old is going to grow up with that.
Oh my God, right? And he was planting them, and then he was like, it's so sweet. Yeah, I think he's 3. Yeah, he's 3. So
love it.
Yeah,
changing the world one geopot of cilantro at a time. Debbie, amazing.
Right.
Appreciate that. Now, you mentioned that you talk to the cilantro, so I was fascinated with that. We always have some playlist items. Do you also play any music for them, and/or are there any books or resources that you recommend for people that helped you on your kind of initial journey in urban gardening to get other people inspired, but also give them some practical advice?
I think so. I don't sing them any particular songs. I just more hum. And I talk to them like you would talk to a kid, like kind of, giggly and kind of like hokey.
Gentle.
Yeah, just not any specific songs. I just kind of like hum and talk to them like they're my, I know, children or whatever. It's strange, I know. And then for books, so what I did, what I was going to do at one point was I wanted to turn it into a business. I wanted to turn urban gardening into a business. So I dug in and learned so much about urban gardening. And the one book I would recommend, he was actually on my podcast, is Curtis Stone, not the chef, the Curtis Stone Urban Gardener. He's up out of British Columbia. He's got videos, he has books. He's awesome because he can give you can take it as a business and dial in, but you can also just kind of learn from how he plants and the way he goes about it. And that was really helpful. He plants direct into the earth, so he isn't a geopot guy. But that book gave me it helped to open up my world a little bit. So, yeah.
I love that. That is amazing. Are you listening to any music yourself? Because do your energy when you're out there gardening just purely from the plant? I feel like I would need some extra force to have that immense amount of energy. And I was like, she must be listening to like White Snake or something, like rocking out, going nuts before she goes in. But
I think it's funny here, Jensen, because it's so where we are. There's so many birds. I mean, there's parakeets. I feel like tons of parakeets always flying around. There's cardinals. There's so many birds. So there's always this kind of symphony going on here. It's unbelievable. And it's funny because they don't really bother my plants, which you would think they would. They leave it alone. I don't know. That's fine with me because usually you have to cover them so they don't get the seeds out. But I literally don't listen to music when I garden because I like to be a little more present.
I need to stop putting earbuds in and start actually paying attention to what's happening around me. Probably that's a good takeaway from this for sure. So when I go up to the farm today to Black Cat, don't put fucking earbuds in. Just listen to nature.
Listen to it takes a minute, to kind of settle in and get it. But once you do, you're like, oh, okay. It's like the rhythm.
All right, I'm gonna accept that challenge because I'm such an urban kid that the sound of traffic is more soothing than the sound of birds. I'm like, are those birds? Seriously, birds? No. So I'm gonna take on that challenge. I appreciate it.
I love it.
Debi Saltzberg, thank you so much. Everyone, go check out Just Forking Around podcast. She's got a lot of good stuff on there, and then for sure the videos you're posting
for the opening of the store it's the pasta. It's called Gracie. So I'll have a lot of videos on there showing Giuseppe making the pasta and the different products that we have curated and how we're going about opening during this time because it's going to be interesting.
Yes, I definitely want to learn some more about that, especially talked about the agricultural license. I'm fascinated on how that exactly works and kind of that general store and just building kind of a pillar in the community in a slightly different way than the restaurants we came up on. So definitely going to stay tuned to what you have going there.
I'll keep posted on that and let you know what's going on.
Please do. Debbie, thank you so much. Go Go plant some more plants.
I know, I'm going to go plant.
I'm ending over here.
Okay, thanks.
All right, have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, see, just people's energy. I'm such a fan of energy in whatever. Is gardening my thing? It's not my thing. Do I have so much respect for it? Absolutely. And somebody like Debbie being kind of a champion for that is so important. We need it. We need more of it. Joked about my mom and sisters. Every time my mom comes, she tries to plant some herb gardens in the back, and we get a couple little harvests or some little strawberries, and then we kill them. We're the worst. But I am going to take the challenge, at least, if not of growing my own food, to being more connected to the food process. Like I said, going up to the farm stand, supporting that, it means a lot. And I sometimes go too fast and forget about that. And I'm sure that you do as well. So let's take that in mind. And I'm going to take the earbuds out and listen to nature. All right, tune back in about 30 minutes. I'm going to have Paige Weiss on, who's with Tree Ring Digital. Big transition from urban gardening, connected to land, to talking technology and really talking about the customer's digital journey. It's been increasingly important for brands since this thing called the internet, and it's becoming more and more important. And in this moment, it is mission critical. I truly believe that for people to have a very thoughtful, very hospitality forward experience at every exchange, at every interaction with your brand, not just when you get their butts in seats. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to need that. So cheers, everybody.